A woman arrested in Indonesian maid abuse case. Local cancer screening results sound an alarm. And Thai authorities could declare a state of emergency. Good evening. In our top story tonight, the Hong Kong employer accused of torturing her Indonesian maid has been arrested over her alleged beating of yet another maid. The suspect was apprehended while trying to catch a flight out of Hong Kong. After interviewing the one maid who suffers from life-threatening injuries in Indonesia, Hong Kong authorities say she's agreed to return to the territory to testify.
The woman in question was already on the police's watch list and was arrested as she was trying to leave the territory via an e-channel line. She is 40 years old and her surname is Law.
At about 4 o'clock today, Hong Kong police arrest a housewife of age 44. She is believed to be in connection with the Ariana case and another abuse on an Indonesia domestic helper in Hong Kong. The helper complained to us during her working for the employer before March 2012 and April 2011. She was several times assaulted by her employer. We think that this Ariana case and this case has connections, so we consolidate them for inquiry.
Chan said the woman was attempting to catch a flight to Bangkok but would not confirm whether she was actually fleeing.
She's just going to Thailand with one of her friends.
As for the other maid, who claims she was also tortured at the hands of Ariana's former employer, alleges she suffered through 10 months' worth of abuse. In one instance, she claims her employer dragged her to the balcony and threatened to throw her off until she begged for her life. Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying expressed concern over the case. Because Hong Kong is under the rule of law, he insists, any use of violence will not be tolerated. Upon arriving in Indonesia, Hong Kong authorities say Ariana is now in stable condition. She's agreed to return to Hong Kong to testify against her employer. Chief Inspector Chung Chi-ming from the crime unit in Kwun Tong says he will also obtain a copy of her medical report. The Labour Department has contacted the Indonesian consulate in Hong Kong, labour groups and employment agencies since the agency that referred Ariana to her employer called the police on the 12th of January. Labour officer Chen Kar-wing hopes to gather evidence on possible labour violations so they can take appropriate action. One migrant worker representative suggested why Ariana might not have spoken up while she was in Hong Kong.
A migrant worker would usually think of not only the problem with the employer, but also the effect or after effect of once he or she made a complaint. Because, here in Hong Kong, we do not have a security of tenure. We complain. The next thing that will come is the termination of our contract.
But Ariana says she was too afraid to say anything because her employer threatened to kill her parents if she did. Her doctors claim her life-threatening injuries include swelling of the brain from repeated blows to the head. Among other cuts and bruises to her body, she reportedly has a broken nose and broken teeth.
The government will resubmit its application for funding to expand 3 landfill sites. But without reaching a consensus on the issue, the chairman of the Tuen Mun District Council is against the idea. Jenny Lam reports. Overseas now, Thai authorities could declare a state of emergency to control the protest movement to oust caretaker Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra. It follows several days of violence which saw 1 person killed and dozens wounded. Tony Sabine reports. In Ukraine, violent clashes between protesters and riot police lasted all night long on the streets of Kiev, leaving scores of people hurt or hospitalized. Tens of thousands of demonstrators rallied to express their anger over new legislation that aims to ban virtually all forms of protests. Sonia Artero reports. 13 people were killed in Pakistan in a Taliban suicide bomb attack on the country's main army headquarters. Military officials say the suicide bomber was riding a bicycle and detonated his explosives when he got close to a military checkpoint. It's the latest incident in a wave of violence launched by the militant group. Yesterday, militants struck inside an army compound in the northwest of the country and killed 20 troops. If you are aged between 50 and 70 and have been living in Hong Kong, chances are that 1 in 10 of you may have precancerous polyps in your intestines or even colon cancer without knowing it. Vicky Kung tells us more details. And in sports, Chelsea defeated Manchester United 3-1 in Sunday's marquee match in the English Premier League. The loss dropped United 14 points behind leaders Arsenal. Here's Jameson Wong. Snooker and Bronnie O'Sullivan completed a dominating Masters tournament with a 10-4 win over Mark Selby in the final at Alexandra Palace. At the Australian Open, the women's draw lost another star, number 3 seed Maria. And here's a sneak peek of tomorrow's weather. It should be cold tomorrow morning, but as the day progresses, we should feel a temperature of about 17 degrees. That same forecast should hold true over the next couple of days. That's the news. Thanks for watching.